What is up, Carmination? Welcome into another edition of NBA Live for March 1st, 2021. I am your host, Bales, here with James instead of Ben. We have a nice 7-game slate that is reasonable, not much value at this point. But James, how are you doing today, and what do you think of the slate?
I'm doing well. Definitely an interesting slate tonight. We were just talking about it over in Discord that there are a ton of really, really high upside studs on today's slate. And the edge is going to be trying to find the value plays that we like today.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's like the games actually are surprisingly good for the slate. I don't think that there's really any games that I absolutely hate, which usually that doesn't happen when you get up past like 5 games. But we can dive right into point guard. At the top, I mean, there's just plenty of options. James Harden at 11. Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving. Then you have like the high 8 guys. LaMelo Ball is up there playing just out of his mind. Jamal Murray, Ben Simmons, even Donovan Mitchell. I'm literally going to name everyone at this point. So let's just say about 8,500 up. So we'll go anyone above John Wall. Who are you looking at for point guard?
So as you said, ton of options. The top 3 for me of that group that you just listed are probably Harden, Lillard, and Kyrie. Probably want to look into getting one of Harden or Kyrie today. I feel like I might need to go Kyrie and save that $1,900 on DraftKings because that goes a long way today. But I mean, Damian Lillard in this matchup against the Hornets, who have been playing up in pace recently. I mean, he's my priority spend on this slate, I think, is getting up to Dame. What do you think about the guys up top?
Yeah, I think Lillard is my favorite option too. It's important to mention that Charlotte has a short roster right now, and they're coming off of a game last night. Now, they're a young team, so I don't expect any issues on their side, but it's hard enough to contain Damian Lillard on a normal night, let alone when you're playing basically, 8 or 9 guys coming off of a back-to-back. Like, I don't see any way that they're going to contain Lillard. If you're asking between Harden and Irving, I agree. Irving is probably the priority just because you're most likely not going to get to 11. I do think that Harden gets plenty of ownership, though, and I believe that Luka Doncic is a really, really good pivot off of him. Do you have any interest in Luka off of Harden in tournaments?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a great GPP angle to take. I think that their projections are extremely similar today, and when the ownership is going to tilt in the favor of Harden, you always want to take that lower projected owned player if you expect a similar outcome.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. The only other guy above 85 that I think I would have interest in is LaMelo Ball, 87. They're coming off the back-to-back, but he's getting tons of minutes. He looks really, really good, and Damian Lillard is not really a defender that I'm scared of or anything. So is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned above 85 that you like?
Above 85? No, I don't think so. I think that I'm not sure what to do with LaMelo tonight. I liked him last night. It was between him or Fox for me last night. I had a great night last night targeting that game, that Charlotte Sacramento game, which was fantastic and full of fantasy goodness. So, I mean, same story tonight with this Charlotte Portland game. I think an interesting GPP angle is playing Lillard and Ball together and just hoping that game explodes.
Yeah, I really like that. Someone said my volume is low. I apologize. We didn't have this issue the other day, and literally nothing has changed. I don't know what the problem is.
You sound pretty good on my end. So
yeah, sorry. I think that's just gonna have to be how it is, and then we can look into it again after. But nothing has changed from the last time that we did one of these, which more or less everyone said it's completely fine. Mm-hmm. So just moving to the mid-tier, there's one guy that I feel sticks out in this situation to me, which is DeJounte Murray at 81. I do really like him. But overall in the mid-tier, who are you looking at?
So that's interesting. I actually thought you were going to say the name that I was thinking of a guy who stands out. And for me, it's Victor Oladipo. kind of stands out in that mid range with no John Wall tonight. I mean, he's going to be asked to do a lot. And after the comments after this Houston game last night, I mean, they need a win. And there's no better bounce back spot in the league than against Cleveland right now. I love DeJounte Murray. I think he's going to be a superstar. So I'm very interested in him as well. And I actually think Murray's probably going to be like 1/4 the ownership of Oladipo. So that definitely gets your GPP brain excited. I know that.
Yeah, Oladipo was the guy that I had listed right under Murray. I just had them in
There you go.
one tier off. So we seem to be on the same page today, where we're thinking basically the same stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyone above like 5K that we didn't talk about? The one guy that I would outline is Mike Conley at 6,500. It just feels a little cheap for him, especially in a solid matchup against New Orleans, who in the beginning of the season, the defense looked fantastic. And since then, I mean, just literally nothing. So anyone above the 5K range that we keep it in the mid tier that you like outside of the few guys that we named there.
Yeah, just to comment on Conley and the Pelicans defense in general is Van Gundy has kind of pulled the reins back on them being super defensive oriented, and he's kind of allowed them to go out there and just play basketball now. We see Zion open it up on both ends of the floor a little bit more now. They're playing a little bit less structured, which I think is really good for this young team. So Conley, definitely interesting there. I think the one kind of tournament play that I would go with is, what do you call it? I had him. Colin Sexton is someone that I would be interested in. He's right below. He's right below that tier of Oladipo and DeJounte. I think he's an interesting run back. If you want to go Oladipo and Sexton, he's got a ton of upside. We've seen what this Houston defense is all about. I mean, it looks like they've given up. So he's definitely interesting tonight.
Yeah, I actually really like Colin Sexton as a player. So especially if you're going Oladipo, I think that's a really, really good run back because he just took 27 shots in their last game.
Yeah, I mean, he can see insane volume as long as he's getting the minutes. And this feels like a matchup where he can get the minutes. Actually, I thought John Wall was ruled out already, but he is just questionable still. So I like Oladipo as a play even with Wall in. So if Wall is out, I mean, that would be a standout play for me, just to go back to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also thought that John Wall was ruled out. So
yeah, I'm still seeing questionable. So but I mean, we both like Oladipo. Kind of for me either way. But I mean, if Wall's out, Oladipo's really a standout play.
Yeah, I'll add to that also. Eric Gordon is questionable tonight.
Yeah.
And one more guy that we should keep an eye on that we didn't really talk about is Malcolm Brogdon's questionable. If he's out, TJ McConnell becomes a really good play. But we can more or less just go to, is there any value that you like 5K or under at this position? Because to me, not much. But is there anyone that you're interested in?
Oh, man. I mean, it gets pretty ugly pretty fast. I mean, Patty Mills is under 5K, but that's not very exciting.
Yeah, I know. And especially because he's up to 47. Like, if he was even around like 4, I would be like, yeah, Patty Mills is fine tonight.
Monte Morris is okay. One guy at 4K who can definitely have some big per minute nights is Satoransky, but that's still not an exciting play that I'm looking to be invested in tonight. So who knows? I mean, if Gordon and Wall are out, we'll see a ton of value open up, and I mean, it just completely changes the slate context. So as always, just got to keep up with the news, and one really good way to do that is to be in our Discord channel where we are constantly updating and going over scenarios and in and out and what if scenarios constantly throughout the night up to lock.
Yep, I agree with that. The only other guy that if you want to take like a weird GPP dart on is Chasson Randall at 33. I'm not really recommending it. Don't love him. Think there's better spots to go, but he will probably get around 20 minutes, and he does get a good matchup against Dallas. So moving to shooting guard, who are you looking at here? Obviously, we don't need to talk about anyone that we brought up.
Yeah, I mean, we have Kyrie and Oladipo. They're both multi-position eligible. I actually think this is a really thin position on DraftKings tonight. where I probably will be playing one of the Oladipo Kyrie guys or even Donovan Mitchell because the position's so weak. We can see what type of value opens up here in Houston or maybe in Denver or whatever, or even in Indiana with Brogdon out. So I think this is a position where I'm looking to spend up today if value doesn't open up. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. Just looking at shooting guard, it seems like Kyrie Irving is so far ahead of literally everybody else. And then Oladipo also. So, like, Irving's in a tier of his own, then Oladipo, and then we have basically everyone else. I will say there is some value to be had here if you're looking for cheap options that are going to get minutes. Cody Martin, if he's getting around 25 minutes, is 3,500. Dwayne Bacon, same deal. He's 37. PJ Dozier should see about 20 against the Bulls. He's 32. None of those players get me excited. But if value doesn't open up, you're going to have to save somewhere. So would you consider any of them realistically?
Oh, it's tough. I think Dozier might actually get some traction and be a little bit popular, and that's some pretty scary value if you ask me. The one guy I would love to play if John Wall and Gordon miss, or maybe even one of them, is Sterling Brown. I've been super impressed with what I've seen with him this season when he's on the court. He's been super aggressive in his limited time, and if he was able to get to even 30 minutes tonight, if one of them were out, I think he would be a viable value option on this thin value slate.
Yeah, I agree with that. One shooting guard that I will add that I think is fine for tournaments, he's getting priced up at this point, though. I do like the matchup against Dallas, is Evan Fournier. I've said his name a lot this year, and he's looked much better than previous years. But, this position more or less feels like try to get in Kyrie, and if you can't, Oladipo, or kind of just be screwed, honestly.
Last value piece could be Cody Martin if he inserts back in the starting lineup. That is a later game, so it's kind of tough to judge that. I mean, I ended up swapping off of Cody Martin last night when he wasn't in the starting lineup and went to Bismack. That did not work out. He kind of that value position really capped me from having an insane takedown night, which kind of stinks. But yeah, I mean, Cody Martin, if he's back in the starting lineup, he's seen mid-20s minutes the last two games. He would be like a really good value play on this slate if he was starting because of our lack of value.
Yep, I agree with that. Someone asked if Aaron Gordon misses, is Mason Jones in play? You go. Let me know what you think about Mason Jones if Gordon's out.
For me, it would be more if I think I like him a little bit more if Wall was out, just because that opens up a little bit more point guard minutes. If just Eric Gordon misses, I feel like I'm more inclined to play Sterling Brown and not Jones. But if both were out, Jones definitely opens up as a play.
Yep, I think Jones will be a solid option if both are out. If one of the two is out, I agree that I prefer John Wall being that guy, but I don't necessarily love him anyway.
Yeah.
So moving to small forward, I feel like this is another position where there's one guy that's more or less better than everyone for his price, which is Miles Bridges. I don't know if you feel different, so let me know what you're looking at here at small forward.
I played Miles Bridges last night. It was fantastic. He paid off. I actually think he ran a little bad. I mean, Miles Bridges is the guy I think I'm going to lock in at the position and kind of move forward because, for a slate with so many really good games and studs, I mean, there's just very few standout plays, and Miles Bridges feels like one of those standout plays in the mid-range.
Yep, I agree. I think for tournaments, and I wrote this up in my article, but Beaujon Bogdanovic is really interesting because he's right around the same price as Bridges. He's actually $400 more expensive. And I really like the matchup against New Orleans now that, they aren't being so defensive-minded. Bogdanovic literally will get no ownership. He's been so bad recently, and people will just play Bridges. So I do think that Bogdanovic is a really strong tournament option, as well as like Will Barton. I have no problems whatsoever with Will Barton against Chicago. Is there anyone else that you're considering for tournaments then as well?
It's tough. just scrolling through. I mean, could this Utah-New Orleans game be a little bit sneaky? I mean, we've now mentioned 2 plays in it, and I mean, Brandon Ingram's always interesting. He's a little bit priced up. Could this be a sneaky game that we could attack that might go underlooked today? That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from it. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from it, that it could have a little bit of a sneaky shootout here, with both teams being a little bit worse defensively than they were in the beginning of the season. The one guy who's really stood out on defense this year for Utah is Royce O'Neal. I mean, he's going to be an NBA a first team all defensive member this year. I mean, Royce has been fantastic for them this year. So that kind of makes me think that I would maybe be more on Zion than an Ingram, just because I think Ingram does see that Royce defense. But just interesting. Cool Utah's just very interesting this year in general. I heard a fantastic comp for them today that they reminded someone of the 2014 Spurs team that won a championship, where it's just like super not average to above average players.
Just good at everything.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Parker averaged 15 points per game, and he was the leading scorer on that 2014 Spurs team. So I mean, it was an interesting comp, and when you think about it, I mean, they could have a little bit of a run like that team did.
Yeah, I actually think that Utah is like the best overall team in the NBA. I just think that, like, when it comes down to it, really tough for Donovan Mitchell to get to the LeBron James status come playoffs.
I do think Mitchell gained a lot of experience last year when he went toe to toe with Jamal Murray like that. That was really important for his development last year, that he was able to, in big games, step up like that. So, I mean, people are going to sleep on Utah, of course, just on name value alone, and with some of the juggernauts over in the West, but they can make some noise. So I'm excited to watch them in the playoffs this year. It'll be fun.
Yep, I agree. One more small forward before we move to power forward. Michael Porter is now up to 7,000, but he's just been playing ridiculous minutes in close games. So if you're just banking on this game staying relatively close, Michael Porter against Chicago is a really, really good play. Power forward, though. So this is actually kind of funny because exactly where everyone's going tonight, because similar to small forward, there is just one guy for Charlotte that is the very clear-cut power forward play, and that is going to be PJ Washington. Any objections? Do you think anyone else is getting the ownership, or is it just very obviously you're going with a short Charlotte rotation against Portland, and 6,200 is not enough for what PJ Washington's doing?
Played PJ last night, and I plan on doing it again. So, I mean, it's unfortunately, it is really that simple. I'll give you a sneakier power forward play that I do like. If you were so inclined to play PJ at center and you wanted another power forward play, I think Trey Lyles is interesting with San Antonio being so they have the COVID bug. I mean, he played 35 minutes in their last contest, so I think he is very interesting tonight.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to Trey Lyles. He got the price bump a little bit, so it feels like he's going to go under-owned, especially with obviously PJ Washington here. So I like that. I also think right around Washington's price, on the other side of that game, actually, Robert Covington is a really solid tournament option. I know he's been like the definition of boom or bust this year, but you kind of have to roll with that type of thing in tournaments, and I do think that Charlotte's a good matchup for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exact type of player that you want to be targeting tournaments. A guy who is going to be sub 10% probably, and he thrives in these up and down matchups. I mean, this is why they brought him here, so that they could play a smaller lineup. I mean, this could be a day where we see Robert Covington at the 5 against PJ Washington lineups and stuff like that. So I think that is an extremely sharp call and a lower owned run back to the chalky Hornets guys. I absolutely love that Robert Covington call, and I expect to see him in your core tonight. That's how much I love it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I think if you're looking for value, Orlando has 2 interesting guys. One, Al-Farouq Aminu, still under 4K, and Chuma Okeke is 3,200. I was a big Okeke fan when he was coming out. Obviously, he had the torn ACL, so we had to wait on him. not getting like ridiculous minutes, obviously, but 20 tonight. I would assume Al-Farouq Aminu gets a little over 20 at 32 and 38. Do you have any interest in either one of them as salary relief options?
And it is so unbelievably unexciting to play these Orlando guys. I mean, you just know that the game is going to be slower paced, and I mean, Vooch is on the court to soak up all the usage. I mean, you're just begging for 20 points from Al-Farouq Aminu, and I mean, if he gets 20, you're jumping for joy. So
yeah, but
I don't know.
20 is not bad for him.
20's not bad on this slate in general too, because we don't have fantastic value. So I'm not gonna knock Al-Farouq Aminu. I just would rather not do it. But hey,
no, I agree.
We may be forced to do it with some of this value if things don't open up. But I mean, we do this every day. We get on here between 4 and 5, and we talk about the value and we really want to play all these studs. There's nothing, and then the 5:30 injury report hits, and 650 guys are getting ruled out, and all of a sudden you've got all the studs in your lineup with these fantastic value plays. I feel like it happens every night, especially during this COVID era of the NBA.
Yep, I agree. We can move to center. There's a lot of options at center. This is one of the positions like point guard that you can really go a lot of different ways. So who's your favorite options for their prices tonight?
Well, we obviously have Washington here. One guy that, I mean, I've been targeting and he's gotten a massive price bump, and I still don't even know if it's enough, is Jared Allen. I mean, he has just been unreal. They're allowing him to play in the high 30s minutes. I mean, I think he even approached 40 minutes in one game. I can't pull it up right now, but I think he even got up to 39, 40 minutes in one contest. We know that this Houston team is depleted, and they're going to play this small ball lineup, and Allen should just, I mean, have a field day. I feel bad for the people who played Joe Val last night. He got into foul trouble. I don't expect that same kind of thing from Jared Allen. He is aggressive on the defensive end with blocks and whatnot, but I mean, this is the exact matchup you kind of want to target him in. I mean, he's going against Justin Patton, who on the other side is a decent value play.
Yeah.
Might be a really good value play if nothing else opens up. I don't know if I'd love playing them together just because one of those screams foul trouble. I mean, less likely that it's Allen, but playing both of them together, just, I mean, you're asking for trouble in that scenario. So I think it's PJ and then Jared Allen and then Patton would be the three centers that I'd be looking at. Do you like anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those three are really good. I actually tweeted a couple days ago that I hope Houston gives Patton run because I liked him coming out of college. And then the thing in the NBA is like an 18-year-old doesn't immediately dominate, and they're like, "You're not good," and they cut him. He's like barely over 20.
It's unreal how quick some of these teams move on from young talent. Like,
yeah,
it's unbelievable.
I do think Joker against Chicago is really interesting at almost 11,000. Enes Kanter against Charlotte. Who's stopping him for Charlotte, especially if they're running PJ Washington at the 5? I mean, I love Washington, but put him and Kanter in the paint, and I think we know who wins that battle.
I mean, I've been doing this since my first Karma show this season. Nikola Jokic is an MVP candidate, and every night he's under own. And I come on here and I tell everyone to play him, and then I fall victim and I don't play him either. And he goes out and he triple doubles in a dream matchup, and everyone else plays the other guards, and you wake up and Jokic has 70 at 5% owned, and you go, how did that just happen? Every time I'm on the stream. I mean, that's
just a nightly thing.
So yeah. So I mean, keep investing in Jokic. I probably won't tonight, which is a good sign for everybody else.
I think at 7,400 also, Rudy Gobert. I feel like Rudy Gobert is a play literally every single night.
Yes.
Not my favorite option. Go ahead.
They refuse to move his price. They absolutely refuse to move his price up. I mean, I think he's an 8K, low 8K player, and they refuse to give him a price bump. You're right. He's in play every night.
Yep. No, I agree with that. He seems like to be the one guy that, like, he has to have like 6 or 7 consecutive good games for them to even consider putting him around 8,000.
Yeah.
But No, I think you outlined the main three are going to be PJ Washington, Jared Allen, and then Justin Patton, I think, personally. So is there anyone else a center that you're considering?
No, I mean when Joel Embiid's going to be under sub 5% owned, I think that's a guy that we need to talk about, right? Against Indiana, I mean, an MVP candidate who could take over the game and drop 70. I mean, like it's nothing. Do we have a Tobias Harris update? I saw he was still questionable. Did he get upgraded to probable? No, still questionable. So I mean, that would help. That would help Embiid again. I mean, in a pretty good matchup against the Pacers. Turner gets a ton of blocks in the defensive end and stuff, but he's no lockdown defender. He just gets a ton of those stocks.
Well, I'll say Embiid's also questionable right now. So,
yeah. I mean that would be interesting. I mean, if he was out, it would shake up the slate for sure. Something's going to happen. I can feel it. There's going to be something, and we're going to go, oh, look at all this value that we have. We can play two of these 10K guys that we love, and I still probably won't play Joker, and he's going to go for 75, and I'm going to feel dumb, you know?
I mean, yeah, that's how it just always goes.
It's just how this NBA season has been with the Joker.
So that's what we have for you guys. Let me get a bold call for you for tonight. What do we got?
Bold call. Last night's would have been PJ Washington breaking the slate, and he did. So tonight's bold call. Let me dig for a good one. Do you have one on deck? Let me think of this real quick, and I want to give a really good one for the people. So let me think of one real quick.
I'll just say mine.
Go ahead.
Quick. PJ Washington. I'm sticking with him. Will drop his third consecutive game of 40+ DraftKings points.
I absolutely love that. I'm going to steal one of your guys, DeJounte Murray triple-double tonight.
I dig it.
DeJounte Murray triple-double tonight.
I'm in. That's
nice.
all we got for you guys. Don't forget, you can go to the website, dfskarma.com, find all of our articles, get our packages. We now have a props-only package. That package will go ahead and get you all of the props that any of us post. And thanks and good luck.